Yeah. Is it first day of August?
No.
It's July 31st?
Yeah, it's my grandmother's birthday. She's 93.
Liz Riley.
Liz Riley in the flesh.
That's the camera right there. This is testing the equipment. We're in a room. It's not the right room, but it's okay. I think if we talk close enough to the microphones, you won't get the echo. Liz, never been on before. We have a history.
We do. That makes it sound weird.
Well, no, I mean,
we have a friendship.
We've known each other for a long time.
Right.
And mine's way too loud. Let me turn mine down. Okay, there we go. And so there's so many things I want to ask you. I was thinking last night, I'm like, what, where you are now from where I met
me?
Yeah, and you are now, and I was telling my sister about this the other day, that you were a bartender. I didn't tell her this, but in my head, I'm like, okay, you were a bartender, you waitress, whatever. Now you work in, like, you were an ambulance driver.
I was. And yeah, now I'm continuing to use that license, but I still work in healthcare.
So the question is, how did you get from where I first met you to where you are now?
You know, that's great.
I mean, it's such a...
No, I know. Well, and what's even not crazier, because this isn't a huge jump, is that prior to working as a bartender, I was an actor for a long time too, which you see a lot of entertainment people work in the service industry. It's a great job because not only you get to talk and whatnot, but usually you can make the schedule work and you can make a lot of money because you don't make a lot of money as an entertainer. So I did that actually.
Columbia University?
What's that?
Columbia,
yeah. That's where I went for the last 2 years of school.
Oh, okay.
The first 2 years I was down in Mississippi the first 2 years of college. But no, so when you met me, I just came back to Chicago after traveling for 2 years.
Right.
And I essentially came back to Chicago because all my friends from college were here and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. And
How old were you at the time?
25.
Okay, so 25, not knowing what you're going to do. Kind of scary, but...
Yeah, well, because I graduated college. And when I graduated college, at that point, I had been in the entertainment industry for, probably like 10 or 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so the first time I did any sort of professional acting was when I was like 12. And then I continued doing professional, non-professional, just acting and whatnot. So by the time I finished college, it's not that I knew I didn't want to do acting anymore.
Right.
It's that I knew that the industry in itself was, I don't think, for me long term. Like to this day, I always say, if I could pick any career or anything to do for money, it would be acting. I love acting.
So are there regrets there?
Not really, because I know that unfortunately the way the industry is set up, I personally don't feel like there is enough reward for what I would be doing.
Really?
Yeah,
See, I would think you'd be perfect. I mean, even if there was no video right now.
Yeah.
For voiceover work.
I would love to do voiceover.
I mean, your voice always reminded me of Jenny Slate. I don't know if you know who that is.
Well, it sounds familiar.
She does a ton of voiceover work. Yeah. She's a comedic actress. Yeah. The Pets movie. She was one of the animals in The Secret Lives of Pets.
Oh, okay.
And your voice has always been very similar. Yeah. Anyway, but you could always get back into it if you want to, right?
You can, but unfortunately, and this is part of the industry from my experience. Okay. I am not going to speak for everybody's experience, but from my experience, I feel like it is a lot of who you know, right place, right time, what you look like, what kind of connections you personally have, or now day and age, a social media following, like what kind of a presence you have, what kind of like clout you can bring to the project that you're working on, what kind of finances you have. I just feel like there is a very, very small percentage of actual talent and want for the piece itself that is required of you. And that's my whole driving factor is I loved connecting with characters. I love connecting with other actors to build this piece because I love to tell stories. Shocking. I love to tell stories. I love to bring stories to people, especially if it's stories that are something maybe people don't know much about. That makes them think about like a situation or somebody else's perspective. I love being able to give a platform. And by platform, I mean a movie, stage production, something to somebody's story, whether it's real or not. And unfortunately, that's just not as valued in the industry. And on one
Wow.
hand, I get it. People want to make money. The other hand, I get it. It's a very social
Yeah, but
industry.
so many. It seems like now with all the streaming and all the shows and everything, and all the online stuff.
Yeah, it's
that-
heavy.
Yeah, you could get a gig, but anyway, you backed out of that.
Yeah. So eventually, so when I graduated college, I kind of was like, I just spent all this time doing it. I spent all this time and money doing this.
Yeah.
I just got this career. I'm like, pardon, but it's like I kind of knew I don't think this is what I want to do. Because so when I started doing this as a kid, it was fun, games. I got to do the things that I loved.
Mhm.
And then as I got older, it became more. And especially as like a woman in the industry. And now at this point, this is over 10 years ago, there was a lot of things that I encountered that I also, when I graduated, thought, I don't want to keep doing that. Yeah. Like, you know, the amount of times I went into an audition and they're like, you need to be 10 pounds lighter, 10 pounds heavier, darker skin, change your hair, be taller, be shorter.
All physical.
Yeah. It's just stuff like that. And then additionally, I regularly was, and I think this is the experience of most women and potentially men, and not that men can't be part of it, you know, like was offered like, well, you know, if you want to, you know,
Come on.
then, I mean, and this happened in college with college students that were directors even. So it wasn't even just in the professional world. It was, well, if you want to be in my student film, you know, maybe you can, maybe we can help each other out.
Casting couch. It's a reality.
Yeah. And you know what? And like, honestly, and I'm just going to speak for women, to the women who choose to go that route to further themselves, honestly, more power to you. I'm not going to condone, I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing. And the only reason is because I think, you know, people like to talk shit. Oh, can we cuss on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Like to talk shit about people who you sleep their way to the top or whatever, when it's like, well, the top is taking advantage.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's in a lesser position to do whatever they can for whatever reason, just is what it is.
So, I mean, the mental toll.
Yeah. And that was just like something I knew I personally wasn't going to do. And then additionally, like I didn't want to do things to make myself smaller, bigger,
Right.
this, that.
Right.
You know, and so again, all of that, along with who you knew, what you could bring to the product, all of it, aside from just your talent and want to tell this story, whatever it is, was way more important. And that to me, and then on top of it, you don't get paid. Sometimes, a lot of times they'd be like, well, you'll get exposure.
Jeez.
That's the other thing, is that oftentimes I would get offered gigs that I didn't get paid anything for, or if anything, I just like, you get paid like a stipend.
Yeah.
They'll be like, well, we'll pay for your parking and your lunches. And it's like, how are you supposed to live?
Well, okay. So
anyway,
but there's so many layers there that I want to get into,
Yeah.
because the last pod we did, I had to, the person I had on, we had to alter their voice because they were talking about kind of this same thing.
yeah.
And how being a woman and just a woman in general and a young woman, you are objectified and sexualized and all those things because men can, I don't know, feel like they can do that. But it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's so funny. I was talking to my partner. I don't know if he wants me to say his name and stuff. So I'm just going to say my partner. I was talking to him about it, or about something. And I remember saying to him, two distinct memories from when I was a kid of the first times I remember really being sexualized. However, I don't, at the time, that's not exactly what I knew was happening. But I remember being like, that's kind of weird. The first time when I was like 8 years old.
Oh my God.
I remember I lived in a neighborhood at that time with a bunch of kids of varying ages, but I'd say probably some of the oldest were like, at the time when I was 8, probably like 13, 14. Some of the youngest were like 2. But it was, and all of us kids would hang out a lot. We'd run around. And I remember one time wanting to like run outside, and I didn't have a shirt on. I'm like 8. And I remember somebody, I'm trying to think, it was maybe somebody in my family saying, you know, no, you have to put a shirt on. And I would be like, well, my brother, who's younger than me, I was like, my brother doesn't have a shirt on. And they're like, but you're a girl and you're going to get boobs at some point, and we don't want men to think about it like that. And I remember at 8 being like, but my chest looks just like my brother's.
Purely innocent.
Right. Like
Purely
I
innocent.
remember
Sure.
being so confused because again, I had flat chest.
Yeah.
It looked just like my little brother's.
Yeah.
But I was not allowed to go outside without a shirt on, but my brother was. And at the time I just remember thinking, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, why would they look at me differently than my brother?
Mm.
And then a second time I remember being young. This is when I was probably like 11, maybe. I was at a family event. And it wasn't just family. It was like a family event that everybody would bring like all their friends and stuff to. But it was like extended cousins, a big thing. I mean, there's probably like 50 people there that were coming and going. And it was at a family member's house that had a pool and whatnot. And so my young cousins and I were like running around. And I remember an older cousin, and by older, so I was like 11. This older cousin was probably, like mid-20s at the time, like older, had some of their friends over. And I remember there was this one guy friend of my cousin who kept hanging out with the kids in the pool and playing with them and stuff. And he was like a big guy. So we were like loving it because we could like jump off of him and he would throw us. It was super fun, right? Yeah. And I remember he always paid attention to the girls, but again, didn't think anything of it. And where it became, and this event, this event was something that spanned over like a few days. So you stayed at this like hotel nearby. But anyway, so I was there for days. And I remember one time I was running with my cousins, like my younger cousins, past my older cousin and his friends. And his friend who had taken a look at the kids smacked my butt as I ran by. And I remember stopping and being just really confused.
Unbelievable.
And I stopped and I remember looking at him and he just stared at me and smiled. Again, at the time, I didn't fully understand exactly all of what it meant, but I just knew how I felt, which was, that's weird. And then after that, I remember distinctly like in the pool and whatnot, just staying away from him. But he kept coming over to us and trying to throw us and whatnot. But I just remember thinking, make me feel weird. Yeah. And I just, and it's weird stuff because that's you grow up. Because if it's not happening to you, you're watching it happen to your mom. I remember coming out of a doctor's appointment one time when I was 5 and my mom was getting catcalled and all these things were said to her. And I remember being like, Mom, why are they saying that? And she was like, I was like 5 or 6. And she was like, just because you're a woman. God. And so it's just like you as a woman are acutely aware of it at such a young age.
So I think it's just because of the way that we were brought up, my family, my mom, very strong personality, very strong person. We were taught to respect. Yeah. Whether we did or didn't, but she was very, you don't do that. You don't catcall. You don't touch people unless they want you to, you don't uninvited touching, none of that stuff. She's very, very adamant. And the way she explained it to us was always like, because some people just aren't like you, Chris. So, you might want to hug somebody, but they don't want you to hug them. So you need to ask, or just don't even do it, or you can't say these things because they're people and you can't treat them like they're lower than you. And when you catcall somebody or you put them in a spade, it's just like, wait, what? Well, it's just, and it's parenting, don't you think?
No, it is. But the thing about it that's crazy is that while boys should be having that conversation or had that conversation with them, first off, not always happening. Second off, even if it's being said to them, what they're observing could be the exact opposite. Sure. And actions speak louder than words, unfortunately. And what's normal. And then on top of it, children are watching not only the behavior happening, but the people around that behavior and how they're reacting to it. And a lot of times people just kind of are like, men will be men, boys will be boys. It just is what it is. And then while boys should be having had that conversation, girls the same age are having the conversation of don't be alone at night. Don't be with a man alone. Don't wear anything revealing. Don't do this. Don't do that. And they're being told about the world in a really scary way. It's there's different ways that you grow up based on what your genitals are.
But the underlining theme should be respect one another.
Oh yeah, it should be. It should be. And
I mean, you need to have empathy for people, but you need to be able to respect them and understand whatever they're, don't that guy hit you on the butt? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Where in his mind is that okay?
I mean, now I look back on those memories with different perspective
Sure.
because I know more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was gross. And one of those guys that was with him should have said something,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, so it's kind of not a similar situation, but kind of a situation. This is a restaurant I worked for, and the owner and his friends had their annual fantasy football draft, and they hired a couple of waitresses to cocktail the party, serve beers, drinks, and whatever. And they did, and they paid them. But the next day, the stories were that the girls would walk by and the guy would just swat them on the butt. Like that was okay.
Yeah. I mean, even as an older.
This is in the 2000s, by the way. This is not years and years and years ago. Well, it is years ago, but I mean, this is just recently. And I was getting sick to my stomach because it's the boys, it's the locker room, it's fun and games, it's okay. Where is that okay?
It is. I mean, it's still something now, even in 2025, that I deal with. Not as much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I give off a specific energy now that I didn't before, but it happens significantly less. But I mean, even in my job now in healthcare, I had a guy actually recently in the last few months touch my butt hip area. And I think it was not meant in that way, but regardless, it's like you don't touch.
Yeah.
And I think men specifically, I think that they are usually raised with a lot less awareness of not only the people around them, but also like restrictions, especially social restrictions.
Okay, but wait. To be devil's advocate, be like, well,
I don't argue with the devil, aka
what? No, but what? So the Hooters restaurants or the Twin Peaks, or a girl goes out dressed provocatively or whatever, and the guy's point, well, she's wearing that,
right? What about it?
But in his mind, it's like she's asking for it, isn't she?
That's because in his mind,
I'm just saying that.
No, I know, but that goes back to exactly what I'm saying, which
Right.
is in his mind, everything is for him.
Right.
Because he was not raised with restrictions. He was not raised with, and by raised, I don't mean specific parenting. I mean, sure, that obviously takes a place into it. And I think that
you're a good boy.
Well,
you're the king. You're king.
Well, and they can even hear like just adult conversations happening, and it's like I remember sitting once at a table with some family members, and they had my cousin at the time was, gosh, probably like 15, and they were talking about this like pool party or something that his grade had, and they were talking about one of the like 15 or 6-year-old girls that was there, who I guess was in like a bikini or something, and they were like, yeah, she was in like a little skimpy bikini, like just being a slut. And these are like 40-year-old adults speaking about one of his classmates, and it's, first off, I don't think, to be honest, if that's how you feel, or regardless, I still think that that's not necessarily a conversation you need to be having in front of your 15-year-old child. Additionally, even so, like, even though I know he was raised to respect people and respect their boundaries and whatnot, he's hearing that adult conversation.
Yeah. So he thinks it's okay.
And that's the thing, is that I think parenting is so important. I think it is the foundation. I think that, and I say this as somebody who isn't a parent. So of course, you're the best parent until you have kids. People always say, they're like, you're the best parent. The best parents are people without kids. So I say this as somebody who might eat my words later, and I accept that. But I think parenting can set the stage, set the foundation. But regardless, your children are always going to have external environmental influences.
Well, especially today.
/ experiences. And so I think that's where your parenting really comes in. It's not necessarily that your parenting needs to tell them what is right or wrong. Your parenting, I think, needs to help set the stage for your kids to ethically and morally decide what is right and wrong within those contexts of those experiences.
Right.
And so I remember sitting at the table, and I was younger at the time, like 20s. And I remember them saying that. And I just thought in my head, this little kid is hearing this about his classmate. And so I just said, that's kind of weird to say about a 15-year-old. I just said that. And they were like, well, and they tried to like say something else. And I said, no, that's a weird thing to say about a 15-year-old, period.
And then they
just kind of brushed it off and was like, whatever, and like moved on.
Oh, Liz.
You know, because it's like, again, regardless of what anybody is wearing or doing, unless you specifically have been invited to participate in it,
right,
it may really have nothing to do with you.
Well, okay. So again, back to the last or 2 weeks ago, the person that was on, social media was a big deal in their
image.
Yeah. And the girls on TikTok or the
Yeah.
girls on
Is this
Instagram,
a younger person?
they're
Okay.
19,
Okay.
20, 19,
Yeah.
20 now.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. All of them are in therapy. All of them are getting themselves together.
The
But
younger ones.
yeah, but it's things that happened to them that got them to this point.
Yeah.
Some did a lot of drug use. Some
Yeah.
did a lot of drinking. Some just fell out. Some ran away from home.
Yeah.
These are all kids I worked with.
Right. Yeah. No, I know. It's
crazy.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like the social media in general is a double-edged sword.
Totally.
I as a millennial who grew up with, I guess, the invention of social media, because I grew up remembering
MySpace.
Oh, yeah. But even before that, like when MySpace wasn't a thing, social media wasn't like a thing.
Yeah.
You know, you had AOL chat and that was it.
God.
You like aim people, AIM, you know, you would aim people. And then I remember like we didn't have a computer at first. And then we got a family computer to which you had like 20 minutes on because it cut off the phone line, you know?
Right.
It's like, I remember all of that. I remember thinking I was ahead of my time when I heard about Facebook, and I told my friend, like, oh my gosh, you should get a Facebook. I think it's going to be the next big thing. And they're like, no, MySpace is going to be forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and so now it's like I grew up with like the invention and watching the evolution of social media. I personally am really happy I didn't have it in the context now as a young person, because I think there's a lot of shit I would have said or done on social media that would come back to haunt me. Like there's still things that come back to haunt me every now and then, but there's stuff that I know. I'm a very different person now than I was growing up. And I am happy I did not post that person a lot.
A lot. You did a little bit.
I would say there were some things that I know I've like made like a Facebook status about back in like 2005. And now I'm like, oh girl, I'm glad you've grown.
Well, see, and you said it, there's good and bad with social media. Like the bad obviously is there's so much negativity. The whole image thing is just really bad, but there's also good things.
Yeah. You find people who are like you.
Yeah.
You can find solace. The other thing about social media that I think I don't want to say is bad, but I think people need to recognize is we as individuals, I don't think we're meant to get that much information. Like we're not meant to receive all the information that we are receiving about everything, not just not just mental stuff, but hearing about world events, things like that. And
overload, you think?
I think it's an overload. And and this is why I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's on the individual to monitor themselves. Like, I think it's important that you are aware of what's going on. Be aware of what's going on in Gaza. Be aware of what's going on in Ukraine. Be aware of what's happening in the different states of the United States. But I think that you as an individual can only be your best with that information when you have taken the time to process it, when you've taken the time to take care of yourself with it. And I don't think any generation, really even myself, but any generation before me, of course, received that much information at such a young, vulnerable stage that these kids are receiving it now.
Yeah.
So there's like not this manual on how do you receive all of that.
How do you process it?
How do you process it? And that's why
where does it go?
The therapy. That's what therapy's for. Therapy is for.
Are you in therapy?
Yeah. I've been for like 10 plus years at this point.
You had therapy when you were at DMK?
Yeah. Well,
you started, I think, maybe.
I can't even remember. So I have done intermittent. I say intermittent because there's brief periods where I was not in therapy regularly, but for like 10 plus years, I've done intermittent therapy because I've moved a lot. So I think I told you I took once I graduated college, I stayed here in Chicago for 1 more year. And then I spent 2 years almost just traveling. I lived in Atlanta. I lived in LA. I was down in New Orleans for a little bit. I was in New York for a little bit. I was back home in Mississippi for a little bit. And so during that,
that's what you should do. Yeah.
Yeah, like everything I owned fit in my car.
Before Coop, BC.
Well, actually, Coop was technically in the picture at the time, but not really.
Who was watching them? Somebody was watching them for you.
Yeah, they weren't watching him for me. I actually had technically surrendered him to them to keep forever. I didn't have any intentions of him coming back into my life. Then about a year, yeah, because
Cooper's her dog.
Yeah, Cooper's my baby. Just turned 11, which is crazy. You know, he was always meant to be in my life. I know he was. I think though, when we first met each other, I don't think I was 22. All the dogs, I grew up with tons of dogs, but they were all family dogs. There's a very big difference between having a family dog and a dog of your own. And then additionally, he's a rescue, which all of our dogs always were, but he was a rescue with a lot of anxiety. He's only like 10 months old when I first got him. And he was living in a house with 3 girls that had like a revolving door of friends coming in and out.
Oh, so
many. And I ran up to him and I was like, my baby. And he bit the fuck out of me. Yeah, that's why I have this scar here. You seen the scar? Yeah. Wait, which side is it? This side?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's from him biting it. And I still have never fully recovered sensation in this corner of my lip because he bit the fuck out of my face.
Know that.
Yeah. And it like rocked my world. Oh. And so after that, I kept him for like another month. We had already been going to puppy classes, and I talked to the instructor there and kind of explained to her what had happened and said, you know, this has changed our relationship. I don't feel confident with him. I don't know what to do with him. I'm stressed with him. Yeah. He can sense it. And so she was like, well, I actually just had a dog pass away. I would love to take him. And I just said, okay. And we did the exchange. I gave him to her with the intention of, this is better for him. I don't think I can be the parent that he needs. I think he has too many issues. And then like a year and a half later, maybe, yeah, or like a year later, something like that, when I was living out in LA, she sent me a text and she was like, hey, I'm getting a divorce. She had like 2 kids at that point.
Yeah.
I have to do this. I have to downsize. I'm getting rid of all of my dogs and I've been able to rehome all of them but him. If you don't want him, he's going to the pound.
Oh, shoot.
It was like a really, to be honest, for somebody who was a dog trainer, her whole career was dogs. It was kind of a very like non-compassionate, empathetic like way of speaking about it.
Like a step parent is like the child.
It was kind of interesting. Anyway,
God.
I lived in LA at the time, but I knew I was like, that was not the place for me. And so I was like, can you hold on to him until next weekend? I'll come get him. He lived in Chicago. And so I made real fast plans and I drove from LA back to Mississippi, 3 days in the car by myself, got in at like 10 o'clock at night.
Great drive.
Gosh.
Jesus.
It was
Texas. Did you go straight through Texas?
And then I got in at like 10 o'clock at night. And then the next morning, my mom and I got in the car and we drove the
up here
12 hours to Chicago, picked him up. And then I've had him ever since.
Did he remember you?
He did, actually. I was surprised. I think we were always meant to be together.
You just need to get over that initial.
It was, yeah. I needed to mature and learn what it's like, not only to just have a dog, but have a dog that has a past, I guess. Maybe he needed to get out of the puppy stage just a little bit and have some routine and stability. Now, knowing him, he needs routine. He needs stability. He needs proper introductions. And that was not the house of my 22-year-old self.
No. But okay, so went down so many different roads.
I know.
So now you're working, and this is how I started the whole darn thing. You're working in an urgent care, correct?
Immediate care.
And you brought it up. We were at a baseball game, the Chicago Dogs baseball game. And you were telling me about how people use it as an emergency room.
All the time.
Which I'm like, okay. First of all, how did you get to the? How'd you move from the driving of the ambulance to?
Well, that's just like I feel like almost a natural progression.
Is it?
So yeah, so I have an EMT license, so that's why I was on the ambulance, and then that really qualifies me mostly for emergency medicine. Immediate cares fall under emergency medicine. Emergency is a loose term of what we should be handling at immediate cares, but that's the gist is like medicine that needs to kind of be handled now. Emergency, just for context, immediate care or urgent care is a problem that needs to be addressed right now, but is probably most likely and shouldn't be life-saving. Examples, UTI, the flu, COVID now. Depending on your past medical, it could be emergency, but things like that.
A cut.
a cut, a laceration,
Something in your ear.
a broken finger. Yeah, things like that.
You guys handle broken fingers?
We handle a lot of broken bones.
Really?
Yeah, very rarely do we have to send them to the emergency room. Most of the time, we have to send them to the emergency room when the bone needs to set properly. But actually, a lot of breaks are pretty good. Like, our purpose is to stabilize it immediately, stabilize it so that you have enough time to get to somebody who can handle it long term. And that's the point of the emergency care or emergency room, is that emergency rooms are for problems that are problems right now
Right.
and are life threatening.
Right.
A UTI is not life threatening. It shouldn't be, unless, of course, you're an old person. Oh, that sounds rude. Geriatric patients who get UTIs, that can be life threatening.
Sure, yeah.
But for the most part, a 25-year-old with the flu, we got you.
78, 80-year-old with the flu.
Honestly, most of the time, we got you. Unless, of course, there's all these, you're a recent lung transplant patient with there's all these. So it's in Lakeview. I'm not going to talk about the name of the place.
No, you
just
have
because
no.
I don't
No,
know if they want me to. But yeah,
fun.
it's in Lakeview. But I go all over the city. So sometimes I'm here in Evanston. Most of the time I'm in Lakeview. But sometimes I'm in Evanston.
Oh, it's like an office.
It's a satellite clinic of like a bigger hospital system.
Okay.
And so they have clinics all over.
All over.
Yeah. And so sometimes
Endeavor. Don't say it.
All over.
All over. Northwestern.
Don't say that name.
Well, there's a bunch. There's Northwestern. Which just won an award for one of the best hospitals. Endeavor.
Yeah. Advocate.
The number one thing that people come in there for is,
let's say, like colds. That's our bread and butter. People come in.
I got a rash.
Yeah, we get a lot of rashes.
I mean, I have a bite. I don't know what this is.
Insect bites. Everybody thinks it's a spider bite. It's very most likely not a spider bite.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's a spider bite.
So do you treat these? Do you handle this stuff? You do this?
I participate. So depending on what it is, I mean, I don't write the prescription, but I work with the providers to do it. Sometimes I'm assisting in the procedure itself. Just depends on what it is.
You sew somebody up?
I don't personally. No. That's gross to you.
I remember I was at DMK and I was training and I was learning how to make a shake. And I was told by, what was her name? Cece was her name. She's a different name now. Yeah.
She has a different name.
Well, she's a stage name now. She's an actress.
Oh.
Yeah, and she was great. I mean, she was showing me how to make shakes the DMK way.
Yeah.
And I had a glove on, but the tin had sweat. So I went up and I had put too much ice cream in there. So it pulled it. As it pulled it, it grabbed my glove. And as I was pulling down on it, the blade that would cut
into your webbing.
Yeah, right into the webbing. And
that's a shit place to have.
I think it was right here. It was right here because I was using my left hand, which is weird. And I'm like, whoa. And I took it and it was literally like way down.
Yeah.
And it was like.
Did they end up sewing it?
So I went to the emergency room.
Okay.
I mean, and they're like, you got to go. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And then, no, you got to go. And the guy in the emergency room was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be, he did inside something called micro stitches or something.
Yeah. Those are usually dissolvable.
Yeah. And then he did on the outside and blue ones.
Yeah.
And it was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, but there's no scar. I took pictures just so there's no scar.
Yeah. Well, the webbing itself, there's just so much.
Like fatty.
Well, there's that, but like there's so much lining. That sounds weird, but like lines and indentations and stuff. Honestly, you probably have even just a little bit of a scar, but you just can't see it.
Okay, that right there.
Yeah.
That was when I was trying again at a restaurant.
Shocker.
And I used a wine bottle opener thing to try to cut a cable. It was a zip tie. It was a zip tie.
But why?
I was trying to cut a zip tie.
You can't find some scissors?
No, no, I got this. It was at the bar. It was at McCormick and Schmick's and Whacker, by the way.
Okay.
And one of the POS was having problems, and it was held together with zip ties. So I went and I was at the bar, so I just grabbed the thing and I was cutting it. As I was cutting it, went right like this. And when I went to the emergency room for this, the guy's like, "You're lucky you didn't cut like, first of all, major veins are right there and tendons, because I could have lost use of this and my thumb."
A lot of PT usually goes into stuff like that. Do you know what's like one of the number one ways to prevent scarring?
Aloe.
No.
What?
SPF.
Really?
So the sun is one of the things that can really
Oh, sure.
scar,
Yeah.
like car.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, I'll remember that next time I get it.
You probably will.
Well, I always gonna cut yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, whatever. So what's the next step then? You like this job?
I like this job. I've been there for a while now. Probably the longest I've been at a job in a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to get into PA school. That's really hard.
PA.
Physician assistant.
Oh, what does that entail?
Depends on.
Not a nurse.
No, not a nurse. So you can write prescriptions, have your own patients, do all this stuff. A lot of times you.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're like a junior doctor.
Kind of, yeah. And depending on what specialty you're in and or what level of service, such as like I work in the immediate care. So that level of service is should be pretty low risk, if you will.
Yeah.
That you can really work pretty independently. Like you are a completely like autonomous provider
Right.
for the most part. But like depending on like how more complicated the specialty you're working in, you'll work potentially more closely and more under a doctor.
This means going back to school.
Yeah. So most programs are like 2 to 2.5 years. I've been trying to get in now for almost 3 years.
Really? Is it a specific school?
I mean, yes and no. There were some, but
the university or anything like that, is it?
Like it's at university. It's a master's program technically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I've applied to a bunch of stuff. It's half and half. One half is it's really saturated right now, really saturated.
But, okay, wait. we need healthcare people, not enough because everyone's getting older and there's not enough people to take care of them.
That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
There are a lot of healthcare workers.
Just the wrong
There's a lot of healthcare
field.
No, there's a lot of healthcare workers. There's a lot of people who have the skills that can transfer over to different specialties. Right now, I think in America specifically, what we're seeing a lot of is lack of proper compensation.
Oh.
So, there's actually, I was just reading in Bend, Oregon, there's this big argument going around with one of the main hospitals there where they have a huge nurse. I don't like to say nurse shortage because it sounds like there's not enough.
Oh, yeah.
I would say there is a huge proper recognition shortage and compensation shortage. And one of the big arguments that is why it started in Bend, or this isn't like the beginning, but like one of the examples is so I guess the average house there is like $700,000, right?
Jesus.
Yeah, something like that. Nurses at this major hospital system do not make enough money to afford a house. And so they were saying, I need more money to compensate not only for where I am, but the type of work I'm doing, because there's a big problem with, it's almost cyclical, but there's a big problem with the nurses specifically, but medical providers who are still working, who are in the field, they're having huge like patient to providers ratio problems. It's like, they have a bajillion patients and there's not very many of them. But anyway, so they're like, I'm doing all of this work. I'm doing the work of all these other people that aren't here and I can't even afford a house. And this hospital system, apparently one of the representatives responded with, well, just because you work in Bend, Oregon, doesn't mean you should expect to be able to live in Bend, Oregon.
Great. Fabulous.
So a lot of the like nurses and stuff were like, then why would I stay here? So, and then additionally, we're seeing now a lot of healthcare providers, doctors, whatnot, who are showing the real conversations that they are having with insurance. So Elizabeth Potter is a really big one right now. She's a surgeon who specializes, I think, in breast reconstruction, specifically after cancer. Anyway, she I don't want to say she started it, but recently, like in the last few months, healthcare providers have started recording the phone calls that they have with insurances over a specific care plan for a patient. And you, as just the general public, are starting to see how much the insurance don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like they apparently this all started initially because they pulled Dr. Potter pulled her out of surgery.
What?
On a patient. It was United Healthcare. They pulled her out of a surgery of a patient to get on the phone to let her know that they had actually changed their mind. I don't know the exact specifics, but I think it was like they changed their mind and decided they no longer wanted to approve to pay for this surgery with the patient on the table.
Oh my God.
That she had already had gotten this approval for. It's like, so they are spending hours of their time having these arguments with insurance companies that they're not getting paid for. You're seeing, so a lot of times insurance companies, let's say you put in a request, say, I need to do surgery for this patient because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
They provide all the stuff. It's kind of like a prior auth almost. Let's say the insurance company is like, actually, no, we're not going to cover that. It doesn't make sense to cover it because of your reasoning. So then sometimes what medical providers like doctors can do is they can say, well, I want to have what's called a peer-to-peer. And that means that I, as a surgeon, want to speak to another surgeon that represents this company, right, so that they can understand why I want to do this plan. Sometimes, what can happen in these peer-to-peers is, a surgeon from the insurance company will say, I totally hear why you want to go this route. For the best of everybody, could we do this instead? And one of the reasons why it's called peer-to-peer is because they have the medical knowledge and the experience, right, to suggest something that would work for everybody. Right. Well, what you're seeing is these doctors are getting on the phone with these peer-to-peers. They are breast reconstruction surgeons. That is their bread and butter. And they are getting on the phone with like pediatric,
what?
Like
that's who they're getting,
general provider or something.
Who has no clue.
Who has no idea. And that's the thing, is they're getting on the phone and they're like, okay, well, let's talk about the other options. And these medical providers are like, well, I don't really know any other options. And they're like, okay, so this isn't a peer-to-peer,
right,
because you cannot be my peer in this specialty because you don't know anything about it. And one of the big moments with Dr. Potter specifically on one of her phone calls was she asked, so she had already established that this peer was not anywhere in the specialty, had never performed any of the surgeries that she performs, nothing. So she asked, do you know the percentage? I think it was do you know that if I don't do this surgery, she will never recover sensation in her areola or her nipple or something. There's like a 50% chance she will never recover sensation if I don't do this way.
Right.
Right. And so she said, do you know that the percentage, if I do it, of that she won't do it, won't recover sensation. And this person could not provide the percentage. And so she said, it's 10%. She said, if I do this surgery, there's now a 10% chance she won't recover sensation. So that's a 40% difference. Mm-hmm. This peer from this insurance company could not provide that. And that's a pretty important statistic to know, percentage to know.
Yeah.
And so God, medical providers are spending hours and hours and hours every week having these types of phone calls
on the phone,
just getting through red tape. So I don't think it is a shortage because people do not have the credentials. I think it is a shortage because they are not given the respect, the autonomy, and the compensation to which they are owed. Mm. And these doctors and surgeons are coming out of school with almost $400,000 in debt. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you not play the game when you have that on the line?
Okay. This hasn't always been a thing, has it? Is it just recently within the last 20 years or something, 10 years? That this is the insurance companies just.
I think it's always been a thing.
It has.
I don't know if it's ever been to this level though. I think, and this is more from, I don't have huge statistics or hard factual knowledge to back this up. It's more just based on my general understanding. I think part of being in a capitalist community and society, people have become more and more money hungry. I think that apparently, from my understanding, additionally, nurses way back when, and by way back when, I mean 20, 30 years ago, actually had a lot more autonomy over their patients, / could do a lot more. Physically, they could order more things and do things. And, nobody's going to know that patient in that room better than the nurse half the time. Mm-hmm. The doctor's going to spend 5 minutes. And so when the nurse is you should order, before they could just order whatever they needed. Mm-hmm. And so now that's another part to it, I think. And so it's almost the respect has gone down. And then there's all this red tape That makes no sense.
That's the thing. It doesn't.
Did you hear about that United Healthcare anesthesia situation years ago? This was right before the CEO was.
No.
So United Healthcare came out.
That's a year ago. It was a year ago.
Was it a year ago?
I think it was a year.
Yeah, so it was like a year or whenever. It was right before. It was shortly before.
Mm-hmm.
They had said that they were going to roll out a new policy, which was that they would stop paying. They would put a cap on the amount of anesthesia a patient would be granted during like a surgery or something.
Sure.
If they deemed that this surgery could be done in a specific amount of time. So essentially, you're a patient, you're on the table,
right.
You're going in for surgery that normally, let's say, takes 4 hours, whatever surgery it
right.
is. The surgeons get in there and they realize, oh, I'm going to have to do this a little bit differently than I planned. It adds an extra hour. Now, after that 4-hour mark of anesthesia, it is going to be totally out of pocket for the patient to pay for that extra hour of anesthesia.
Oh my God.
So that's what they were saying. And so then the other part to it is their providers and how long a surgery should take was not up to the provider performing the surgery. It was up to the United Healthcare.
Doctor has no say.
Administration, whoever, like, could be like some bump up intern who's like, I think an appendectomy should only take like
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? It's 2 hours.
Yeah, they have a financial degree, Yeah. And it's like,
that's insane.
So, and then Brian Thompson was killed. And then all of a sudden that policy never got enacted. They never actually enforced it.
They're not in the business to take care of people. They're in the business to make money. It's all for profit. Mm-hmm. It's like the whole jail system is all for profit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's crazy. That is a whole rabbit hole I could go down. I don't know about it as well, but my oldest sister, who has been a teacher for a while, it's called like a BCBA, basically like a behavioral analysis. Mm-hmm. She works with kids in special needs, but also one of her she's getting her, it's called an EDD, but it's like a PhD of education though. One of her, so her whole career is kids with special needs, especially sort of like the most severe cases. But additionally, she does a lot of concentration and research of the prison or the school to prison pipeline.
Wow.
You heard about that?
No.
So essentially, it's a phrase that encompasses, many of your viewers can absolutely correct me on this. It is a phrase that should encompass essentially certain groups of people, communities of people and usually it's more underserved and impoverished communities that, go to school, but eventually just end up in prison. And so you see that more often. But, when poverty is usually brought on, or not poverty, sorry. Poverty, but crime is brought on a lot of times by desperation, poverty, hard circumstances. And it's been shown over.
My family's hungry. I got to steal this loaf of bread.
And so, and sometimes it becomes, because poverty can be cyclical, it can start younger and younger each generation.
Right.
And so it's just kind of a common phrase that said like school to prison pipeline.
Wow. That's probably really interesting.
Oh yeah. It makes your blood boil.
Well,
that's for sure.
God, so we're gonna have to have you come back because we didn't talk about any about your
anything.
Well, no, we did. We talked about a lot, obviously, but I mean, it just this is the beauty of doing a podcast because you just go off on these tangents.
It's crazy.
And people are like, well, why do you like to do it? And I'm like, well, because there might be someone out there listening that might find a bit of something in this that helps them.
Maybe
feel better. Or I did not know that.
Just little tidbits. I mean, that's the information I talk about or I feel passionate about usually was sparked by a quick little one-liner somebody said. And I was like, that can't be true. And then I go look for myself and I'm like, that's fucking true.
Well, the whole thing you just brought up, in Oregon, and then also that doctor who
Elizabeth Potter.
Yeah.
No,
that's incredibly wrong.
Do you want to know something even crazier right now? Because she started this now, her entire surgery practice has been blackballed essentially by insurances. They will no longer provide her with any money or anything. And now she's had to go to crowdfunding to keep her practice alive because she has been
blackballed.
Yeah. And blackmailed too. But, and she's been they've tried to buy her off. They've tried else. So her entire livelihood, she has had to drain her savings to keep things all moving. It's put her in a really shit position.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. There's so many. You want to think that people are good. It's like all the billionaires aren't good, because it would take nothing for them to give her some money to help her keep her thing going, and wouldn't cost them anything.
No, truly. I know. You know what? I think, and maybe this is optimistic me, I do think actually I do like to think that almost all people are good and or have the capability of being
Inherently are good, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm speaking in society, I'm speaking mostly of America because that is my experience. I think we have continued to become more like dog eat. What's that phrase?
Dog eat dog.
Thank you, dog eat dog. But I think a majority of it is out of almost necessity because it's, and I think some of it potentially was started and perpetuated by billionaires. I was actually talking to my partner a week ago, and I was like, what? Like, granted, maybe I'm just a poor person and I can't fathom it, but I remember thinking, like you said, what is it to them to just give money to whatever? Because in my head, I'm like, I feel like it would get kind of old to just buy another house, buy another yacht.
Well, how much money do you need is the question.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, you have how many hundred billions of dollars, or $30 billion, or whatever it is, or whatever the richest guy is, Bezos,
right.
and
whatever. And you know what? And I'm not saying that. Well, yeah, truly, it's like, it's kind of crazy because it's like it just sits there.
Yeah.
Like, quite literally, the money just sits there.
Yeah.
So just think about that.
Well, I mean, just to use Bezos again.
Yeah.
He started Amazon because he liked to read books.
Is that when he started? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he said you could buy books online.
Yeah.
That's what that was. You could order books. He liked to read books. He'd start it in his garage, whatever, and then it'd be
Steve Jobs situation.
Same thing,
right?
But I think Jobs is a little more social conscious, and then where along the lines Jobs or Bezos lost his
moral compass.
Yeah.
You know what though?
Zuckerberg.
Well, the other thing about it though, people always like to say like, well, they earned that money because they worked so hard and they came from nothing. Which, first off, I want to say, no, you didn't come from nothing because, even, and again, I don't know all of the specifics of every one of their beginnings, but I do know that Steve Jobs, they always say they started it in his garage. Who paid for the garage?
Yeah.
Who paid for it? Was it their mom's house? Because that's not nothing.
No, right. Yeah.
And then all the time that they spent developing it and they weren't either working or they didn't have kids they had to take care of or something. Who allotted you that? Like, who made sure that you had a roof over your head? Who made sure your kids were taken care of? And this is one of those things that comes back to, I think, a lot of times when people want to talk about systemic racism, is that people of color from the get-go have never been allotted those, and I'm going to use this word, luxuries. It is a luxury to come from, at this point, it shouldn't be. I want to say it shouldn't be, but because of what we live in, it is a luxury to come from a family who was able to put a roof over your head and you didn't have to think about it growing up. It's a luxury to be able to get out of high school, and go into college, and whether your parents paid for it or not, but it's a luxury for your parents to expect you to go to college, I think. And this is coming from somebody who, I didn't want to go to college initially. And I told my parents I didn't want to go to college and they made me go. We didn't have the money to send me to college. There were too many kids in my family, and my family fell in a lot of hard financial times where I was thinking growing up, are the lights going to go out? Are we going to have gas in the car? There was a lot of stuff. I started working at 14 years old, and all of that is not to say I didn't have some hard stuff to come across, but I had two parents that were college educated, and that goes really far. Yeah. And my dad specifically was college educated and had graduate education, and all of that was paid for, I believe, if my family sees this and they disagree, whatever, by my grandpa. So I benefited from my grandfather paying for that education.
Goes on.
And it goes on and on and on. And you just keep going.
Right.
And so it's like the people of color have not been allotted that. They have just been not only not allotted their ancestors and previous generations to help set them up. They have not only that, but they have been stuck, like they have had to overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading this book.
Jeez.
And one of the examples that they give to explain systemic oppression is that you as a white person may not have a good enough credit or job to get approved a mortgage. And that sucks. That's an obstacle. That's a hard thing to overcome. Not saying it's not hard, especially back in the day, but even now I'm sure of it. People of color were just denied a mortgage regardless.
Because of the color of their skin.
Because of what they look like.
Yeah.
They could be fucking surgeons at the time.
Yeah.
And they were denied. So it's like, that's why I think when people want to, talk about white privilege and whatnot. So Zuckerberg, Bezos, Steve Jobs,
Bill Gates.
I'm not saying they didn't work hard. I'm not saying that they didn't come from humble beginnings. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I don't think they need to have the amount of money that they have. I'm not saying they shouldn't reap the benefits of the hard work they've put in. I'm just saying there were certain obstacles they never would have come across, and people made sure they were okay. And that, like, Zuckerberg created Facebook while he was at a university.
Yeah.
I think it was a nice university too. Was it an Ivy League one?
Harvard.
Something nice. But, and the thing is, he's a smart guy, but there's a lot of smart people out there that didn't make it into those.
Because they weren't for those the opportunity. Okay. On that note.
What?
It's time to go.
Oh, why is it time to go?
So it's an hour. It's over an hour.
Has it already been an hour?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
How'd you think? What'd you think?
It's cool.
Not bad.
I know. For all.
Would you come back?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
If the people will have me.
Hopefully we'll be in the other room and it'll be set up better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was fun.
Let's play it out. I'll play the music out. Okay. Testing the equipment. July 31st, Thursday.
Patricia's birthday.
Patricia's birthday.